everyone, my name is Awen Fields. I am an environmental education and interpretation major here at SUNY ESF, and today we're going to talk about herps. So let's talk. What are herps? Herps is the colloquial version of the types of species that are studied under the field of herpetology. Herpetology is the study of reptiles, amphibians, and other creatures of the sort, such as snakes, frogs, salamanders, caecilians, all sorts of things. They're really, really cool. I found myself interested in the field of herpetology when I came to SUNY ESF and got really involved in Herpetology Club, and this is my second year now in the club, and I am the vice president. All right, I know you guys might be thinking, where are we? What are we doing outside? We're gonna go herping. But first, let me explain what that is and some of the ways you can get comfortable with herping. Herping is an adventure. You get to go outside, often with a club like Herpetology, or on your own with a group of friends, and you can flip rocks and stones and leaves and logs and look for tiny little herps that you can call your friends for a little while and then return to their homes. Herping is a really extraordinary experience because you get to interact with your environment and see creatures that have always been there, but you had no idea. There are many things you have to be conscious of when you're going herping. It also depends on the location that you're herping in. Today, I'm in Oakwood Cemetery behind SUNY ESF, so I have to be extra cautious about the things that I'm flipping so that I'm respectful of the land that I am on. Before we can get into herping ourselves, we have to talk about why herping is so important. The species that are included under the guide of herpetology include snakes, frogs, salamanders, and so many other things. And it's really important that we show these species some love because they often get a bad rap from our society. There are so many examples of folklore that we've grown up in that have shaped our society to have a negative view of herps. When you think about snakes, you think about the Greek myth of Medusa, who has snakes for hair and turns people into stone. You think about their big long teeth and their fangs and the venom that comes with their bite, but there's so much more to snakes. Additionally, there's frogs and toads who are often used in practices of witchcraft in mythology and are said to give you warts or turn you into a frog. One of my favorite things about being the vice president of Herp Club is getting to take people out on adventures like this into Oakwood and look for herps and watch them see things that they were scared of and find ways to love them. Herps are so unloved because of the societal notions that we've grown up with that it's often really, really exciting when somebody sees a herp and realizes that they're just another animal like you and me, and they're special and unique and really, really interesting. All right, we are now out and about in Oakwood Cemetery looking for a place to herp. Things we're looking for. A lot of underbrush. We want things like big logs, big stones, stuff we can flip so that we can find all the critters that live underneath. You also want to find some place that is relatively moist. A lot of herps breathe through their skin, so they need a moist environment so that that process can be done successfully. All right, we did it. We found a place that's got a lot of underbrush. There's some fallen trees, and it looks like we're going to be able to find some herps. But before we get started, we have to set our expectations for how we're going to interact with these animals. Okay, just like you and I, herps are delicate creatures, and they deserve to be taken care of with the utmost respect, especially when we're in their habitat and we're disturbing it. Now, herping is a really, really cool experience, but we have to be careful that we leave their place better than we found it. Although it's something very basic, it's still something I want to mention. When you're out and about, you may have a snack, you might have a drink, you might have to unpack some things. It's important that we don't leave any trash or anything that wasn't already here in this environment because it's going to affect the ecosystem that the herps are living in. Additionally, if you're out and you find any trash or find anything that shouldn't be there, it's important to pick it up and make sure that it gets disposed of properly. When you go to flip a log or a rock, it's really, really crucial that you flip the rock towards your body so that you're not going to upset any herps that are underneath if you see them and freak out. So when you go, you pick up the rock towards your body, you look, see if there are any friends, and if you get scared, make sure you gently put the rock back down so that we're not harming any of the animals you might find underneath. It's also important that when you're setting the rock or the log back down, that you put it back in the same place that it was. If you disrupt the place that the rock or the log was, then you're going to disrupt the ecosystem that the animals are living in. Now we get to talk about the most exciting part of this program, which is how do you handle herps? You flipped a log, you've been very brave, and you've been careful to not place it back down on where the herps might be, and you see a red-spotted salamander. All right. You have to carefully lay the log down so that you're not putting it on anything else in the ecosystem that might disturb it. And then when you go to pick up our little creature, you want to make sure that you're supporting its body weight, not grabbing by the appendages, definitely not grabbing by the head or the tail. If you stress out the animal too much, specifically salamanders, they do have the possibility of dropping their tail and they won't grow them back depending on the species. When you go to pick up the salamander, you're going to grab it as fast as you can because they're pretty tricky to catch, and then grab it underneath its underbelly and hold it in your hand with one finger underneath and one finger on top. You don't want to squeeze too hard, they're not going to get away, and we don't want to hurt them while we're holding them. Other herps you might find include snakes and toads and frogs. Commonly, in spaces like this, especially in upstate New York, you'll find American toads. American toads can be held very similarly to salamanders. You want to grab them by the underbelly and have one finger on top, one finger on bottom, and support their body weight without squeezing them too hard, grabbing their appendages or their heads. My own personal favorite herp that we find out here are snakes. Commonly, we find garter snakes, sometimes black rat snakes, but those are pretty rare for New York. And it's really, really cool when you get to find a snake because they are some of the most beautiful herps, in my opinion. When you're grabbing a snake, you want to be careful that you're supporting its body weight and not grabbing it by the head. The head is often the most sensitive part of the snake, so you don't want to make it upset by grabbing at its head, especially because that can be seen as threatening. It is important to watch the body language of the herps while you're interacting with them. If a herp starts squirming, or if, say, a frog or a toad were to pee on you, or a snake, those are stress responses. While it is really, really cool to handle herps, we want to make sure that they're comfortable. And if a herp starts having a stress response, we want to return them to where we found them as soon as possible and give them time to recalibrate. Additionally, if you find a really, really cool herp and you want to pass it around to your friends, make sure only 1 or 2 friends gets to hold the herp because the oils on our hands can often interact with the way that they breathe because they breathe through our skin. So we want to be sure that we aren't causing too much damage to their skin or stressing them out. All right, I know we've done a lot of talking and we don't want to just sit here and talk about herps. We want to find them. So let's get into the brush and see what we can do. All right, everybody, something very exciting. We have found our first herp. This little guy right here is a red-backed salamander. Now, I know it doesn't look like it's a redback. This is because it's a specific type of morph called a leadback. After flipping a couple of logs, I found this little guy resting under some leaves and some brush in a nice moist part. And yes, you do have to get your hands dirty, but it's so totally worth it to see super, super cool little creatures like this. And now I'm going to return him to his home and flip the log back over so that he can go about his day. I've got another beautiful redback salamander that I have found under some rocks in a little gully. And it is so exciting to see these little guys, especially as they grow. They are just so beautiful. Hi everyone, it's been a lovely day out here herping with you guys. After about 15 to 20 minutes of looking around, flipping over rocks and stones and all sorts of things, I've only been able to find redback salamanders, and while those are the coolest little guys in the world, I don't have any more herps to show you. So let's do a recap. Alright everyone, let's recap what's happened today. So, we've discussed the importance of being respectful for the places that we're herping, making sure that we're not leaving trash, and if we're in somewhere like this, that we're not flipping over anything that would be disrespectful. We've also talked about how to handle herps, making sure that they're supported, making sure that we're not tugging on any limbs, tails, or heads, and making sure that if they give you a stress response, you return them to their homes. We've talked about where to look for herps, looking for places with lots of underbrush, things to flip, rocks and stones, and lots of logs. One of the big things I think we can take away from every herping experience is that it is completely unique every time you go. I can go out and find 10 garter snakes one day and 2 American toads, and the next day, like today, find only a bunch of redback salamanders, which is so cool. Every time you go out, you don't know what to expect, but you're always going to find something. In this unique experience, we get to love the unloved. Because of our societal notions of herps and especially snakes and frogs being bad, it's important that when we go out, we come with an open mind and show some love to these animals that don't usually get it. Thank you all so much for coming on this journey with me. I implore you to go outside and spend some time reconnecting with nature, and most importantly, get in the dirt and find some herbs.